My podcast, What Makes You Smarter. It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know, the video dance parties, the karaoke jams, the weddings. Oh my goodness, the weddings, they're coming back. Those are my specialty. I used to do almost 100 a year at some points in my life, and that was such a good time. I have no doubt that I can press Wedding Plan 1A and give you a great wedding, but I do want to conform to you and be a part of your day. I want to be an extension of you. And that's what a good entertainer should be. It should be a reflection of whatever mood you're trying to create for the people. So let me be a part of that. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all the people that have already hired me and have had me at their events already. Those have been such good times, good memories in my head, and I'll keep those forever and ever. Because I have pictures too, and I have things written down and just recordings of the things that have happened over the years. And I remember good times. I remember lots of great weddings and parties that I've been to. I'm reflecting. I'm digressing. Now, this week's shows, as I'm recording this on Friday, tonight I will be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. My usual Friday night gig, the video dance party karaoke jam. Yeah, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. Full bar, kitchen's open, pool tables. They got a pool tournament on Friday night, so if you want to try to make some money on a Friday night, I encourage you to do so. Check out the Rab from 8 p.m. until 1 a.m. It's always a good time, and you're the stars of the show. The stage is yours. All I'm doing is pressing buttons, maybe playing some background music. Hopefully I do a good job. People keep calling me back, so I guess I'm doing okay. I've been doing this for so many years. Also, last night, I got to tell you about my first show over at the Cedar Lounge in Morrilton, Arkansas. What a great place. What nice people. The waitresses or the servers that were outside helping us out on the party patio were just amazing. Sweet, sweet people. Always very responsive to all the people's needs out there. I can't say enough about the staff at the Cedar Lounge. I was very impressed, and they had lots and lots of people out on the deck to take care of. And not only that, they have a whole restaurant inside. So there's a family-friendly restaurant inside, and then out on the party patio where we were, it's covered. People can smoke out there. So if you wish, and there was a lot of smoking and drinking, so we kept the kids inside, but it was a good time. My goodness, from 6 to 10, and it was so good. This was just going to be a trial run, and it was so good. The owner came out and said, "Yeah, come back next Thursday." That was good. We liked it. So thank you so much, Don, and the people of Cedar Lounge. I appreciate that in Morrilton, Arkansas. See you next Thursday from 6 to 10. Be there. So tonight at the Rab, Conway, Arkansas, 8 to 1. And then tomorrow night I have a wedding. So unless you're invited, you can't come. I'm so excited. The weddings are here. The weddings are back. Oh, yeah. And also, if you'd like to tell your story or hear the stories of others, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag What Makes You Famous. Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Friday, October 2nd, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Trump. First Lady Melania Trump tests positive for coronavirus. President Trump announced early Friday that he and First Lady Melania Trump have tested positive for the coronavirus. Trump was tested after a top aide, Hope Hicks, tested positive this week after traveling with him on Air Force One and Marine One this week. Quote, "Tonight, FLOTUS and I tested positive for COVID-19, end quote, the president tweeted just before 1 a.m. Quote, "We will begin our quarantine and recovery process immediately. We will get through this together," end quote. Trump has downplayed the severity of the pandemic, telling people in the early days of the crisis that the virus would vanish, quote, "like magic," end quote. For months, he declined to appear in public wearing a mask and has mocked his rival in the November presidential election, Democrat Joe Biden, for always wearing a mask in public, even though Trump's top health advisors say face coverings are the best way to curb the spread of the coronavirus. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 2. House passes $2.2 trillion coronavirus relief proposal. The House on Thursday passed Democrats' $2.2 trillion coronavirus relief package in the latest push to pressure Republicans to strike a deal on new stimulus legislation before the November election. The bill passed without a single Republican vote in the Democrat-controlled House after Speaker Nancy Pelosi, Democrat California, and Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin met this week but failed to negotiate an agreement. 20 Democrats voted against the House bill, many of them urging Pelosi to cut spending further to get Republicans to agree to a deal before lawmakers return to their districts to campaign. The Trump administration on Wednesday offered to increase its proposed spending on the legislation to $1.6 trillion, including a $400 per week pandemic jobless benefit. Bipartisan negotiations are continuing Friday. This is according to Politico. Number 3, Texas governor orders counties to close many drop-off points for mail ballots. Texas Governor Greg Abbott, Republican, on Thursday issued a proclamation limiting each county in the state to one drop-off point for mail ballots. Starting Friday, voters can only return mail ballots in person to a publicly designated county voting clerk's office. All other drop-off satellite locations must close. Abbott also called for early voting clerks to let poll watchers, quote, observe any activity conducted at the early voting clerk's office location related to the in-person delivery of a marked mail ballot, end quote. Texas Democrat Party Chair Gilberto Hinojosa said courts have already ruled that this is too close to Election Day to change election rules, saying that Abbott is trying to make a change, quote, last minute, end quote, because he and other Texas Republicans are afraid they, quote, are on the verge of losing, end quote. This is according to The Hill. Number 4, Trump reduces refugee cap to historic low. The Trump administration is dropping the cap on the number of refugees it will let into the United States in the next fiscal year to 15,000, the lowest since the 1980 Refugee Act was enacted. The administration notified Congress of the change in a letter. President Trump has steadily reduced the cap since taking office in 2017. It was set at 18,000 in 2020. The State Department said Thursday it, quote, anticipates receiving more than 300,000 new refugees and asylum claims in fiscal year 2021, end quote. Of that number, 15,000 would be accepted as refugees, and the rest would enter the already overflowing U.S. asylum process. Humanitarian groups on Thursday harshly criticized the move. Krish O'Mara Vignarajah, CEO of Lutheran Immigration and Refugee Services, blamed the, quote, absurdly low number, end quote, on, quote, xenophobic political pandering, end quote. This is according to CNN and the Washington Post. Number 5, in reversal, campaign to start door-to-door canvassing. Former Vice President Joe Biden's presidential campaign will send hundreds of newly trained volunteers to canvass voters in Nevada, Michigan, New Hampshire, and Pennsylvania this weekend. The push marks a reversal by the campaign, which had refrained from door-to-door campaigning due to the coronavirus pandemic, handing an advantage to President Trump and his supporters. Biden campaign manager Jen O'Malley Dillon said the campaign's, quote, voter contact operation is the most innovative and technologically advanced of any presidential campaign in history, end quote. But the time has come to expand it while putting, quote, safety first and foremost, end quote. Biden's team previously criticized Trump's campaign for its in-person canvassing efforts, saying it was, quote, risking the lives of their staff, end quote, and voters because of the threat of the spreading of the virus. This is according to the Associated Press. Number 6, Amazon. 19,816 workers tested positive for coronavirus. Amazon on Thursday reported that 19,816 of its workers, 1.4% of its workforce, were infected with the coronavirus between March 1st and September 19th. The employees who tested positive were among the nearly 1.4 million frontline Amazon and Whole Foods Market workers the company has in the United States. The data did not cover Amazon's network of third-party delivery drivers. The disclosure came after months of pressure from labor groups, lawmakers, and regulators for Amazon to release data on infections. Amazon has confirmed at least 8 worker COVID-19 deaths. Walmart, the largest employer in the U.S., reported in April that fewer than 1% of its 1.5 million U.S. employees had been infected, but it has not updated the figure. This is according to Fox Business. Oh, and CNBC. Number 7, New York Catholic Diocese files for bankruptcy protection. A Roman Catholic diocese on New York's Long Island filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection on Thursday. The Diocese of Rockville Center, one of the largest in the United States, cited the cost of lawsuits filed by childhood victims of clergy, sexual abuse, and economic losses linked to the coronavirus pandemic as the reason for its financial troubles. The diocese has faced more than 200 sexual abuse lawsuits. The state's Child Victims Act temporarily lets victims file lawsuits over decades-old crimes. Quote, what became clear was that the diocese was not going to be able to continue to carry out its spiritual, charitable, and educational missions if it were to continue to shoulder the increasingly heavy burden of litigation expenses associated with these cases, end quote, Bishop John Bars said. This is according to Reuters. Number 8, Navalny blames Putin for nerve agent poisoning. Russian opposition leader Alexei Navalny told the German magazine Der Spiegel that he believed President Vladimir Putin ordered his poisoning with Soviet-era nerve agent Novichok. Quote, I assert that Putin was behind the crime, and I have no other explanation for what happened, end quote, Navalny said in an article published Thursday. Quote, I'm not saying this out of self-flattery, but based on the facts. The most important fact is Novichok, end quote. He said Russian agents would not try to kill an opposition leader, quote, without being instructed by Putin, end quote. The Russian president has denied involvement and suggested that Navalny might have poisoned himself. Navalny fell ill during an August flight from Siberia to Moscow. He was treated briefly in Russia before being transferred to Germany. This is according to NPR. Number 9, Barrett signed 2006 newspaper ad condemning Roe versus Wade's barbaric legacy. Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett signed a 2006 newspaper ad condemning Roe versus Wade, calling for putting, quote, an end to the barbaric legacy, end quote, of the landmark abortion rights ruling. A Senate Democratic aide said Thursday that, quote, the ad should have been included in Judge Barrett's Senate Judiciary questionnaire and was not, end quote. Barrett's public declaration prompted a top Democrat to warn that replacing the late liberal Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg with Barrett would threaten women's reproductive rights. The White House said President Trump would not ask a nominee to prejudge any issue. Trump is pushing Republicans to confirm Barrett before the November 3rd election. Democrats say that many people have already started voting by mail, so the winner of the election should fill Ginsburg's seat. This is according to the Wall Street Journal and the Washington Post. Number 10, Trump tells Hannity he condemns white supremacists. President Trump called into Fox News host Sean Hannity's show on Thursday and condemned white supremacists, the Ku Klux Klan, and the far-right extremist Proud Boys group. Trump faced 2 days of criticism after declining to denounce white supremacists during this week's presidential debate and telling the Proud Boys to, quote, stand back and stand by, end quote, during protest about racial injustice. Quote, I condemn the KKK, end quote. Trump said Thursday night, quote, I condemn all white supremacists. I condemn the Proud Boys. I don't know much about the Proud Boys, almost nothing, but I condemn that, end quote. Trump also said his rival in the election, Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden, quote, should condemn Antifa, end quote. Biden, paraphrasing FBI Director Christopher Wray, noted that unlike the Proud Boys and the KKK, Antifa is an ideology, not an organization. This is according to NPR and USA Today. That's 10 things you need to know today for Friday, October 2nd, 2020. Thank you for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. I'm just trying to fill my head with knowledge, keep up with current events. And while I got this good broadcast software sitting in front of me, and if you like the sound of my voice, hey, I'll just spit it out here. And if you want to hear it, you can hear it. And if you don't, hey, there's always other things to find. Please don't use me as your only source of news. Always check up the sources that I'd leave at the bottom of every news item that I give you, the 10 things that you need to know today. You know, I really want to use this feed for a whole lot of other stuff too, but it's just I've been so time consumed with other needs, other wants, other desires, other things. But if there's topics that you want me to go through and ramble over, hey, I encourage you to drop me some comments. Let me know what you'd like me to talk about. Even if I just open up a Wikipedia page and just read it to you, you know, give you something to do while you're exercising or doing your dishes or washing the car or whatever you do when you listen to podcasts. Yeah. So if you like the sound of my voice, continue listening to this feed. Or if you want to hear my voice in other aspects, you can check out my other podcast. Hey, maybe even we'll have a talk together, a conversation. Check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. That's my interview show. Use that. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. Also, if you want to watch me stream games online, probably fail miserably, but stream games. Hashtag Keys Dan Gaming. You could find me online playing video games. What am I, 12? Yeah, playing video games. You heard me. I used to do it when I was a kid, and I enjoy it now. How about that? Maybe it's a little time consuming. Maybe I need to not play it so much. There's other things to do. You know, you'll find me DJing on the weekends and maybe some other days. You know, give me a call. Find out if I can do a job for you. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace.